This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Hello, happy Thursday, all. How are you, Jim? How are you feeling today? How are things?
It's good.
How are you really?
How am I? You
like
really care?
Beyond just like the scope of the show. Jim,
Look,
how are you?
I'm glad you asked because
Thank you.
I've been thinking. You know how we shake hands after every show?
All right, that's enough.
And then we go,
Just-
and then we go and we shake Forche's hand.
Yeah.
And then we thank, all the newsreaders'
Yeah.
hands and stuff. It's not about us. It's about the show. So I think we should stop shaking hands after the show.
You're right. You're right about that.
I mean, you and I can shake hands because we're the ones on the air. But I don't think we have to. I mean, everybody else makes this whole thing go. We wouldn't make it to air without them, but they're not on the air, so I don't think we should have to shake their hands after.
Jeffrey Forche, I mean, yeah, he's not really in the battle.
I'm on the air now.
I mean, he does more than both of us combined for the show.
Tyson.
But I don't feel that because he's not on the air, I don't feel we should shake his hand. Now, he was just on the air, so do I have to shake his hand?
Now you do.
Producer Tyson, producer Tamana, producer Braden.
They all make it go. It wouldn't go without them, but they're not on the air, so I don't think we have to shake their hands.
Yeah, you know
after.
what? They're just not that important. It's all about the guys on the air that crack the mic.
It's just about you and me on the air. That's all it is.
Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program. Coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. Hey, try the new Triple Pep Pizza only at Boston Pizza. Very exciting show lined up. Hey, we're going to find out when the Stanley Cup starts. All depends on what happens tonight, and if the series goes to 6 and 7, it's going to stay the same. But I'll tell you when the Stanley Cup final will start. Mark Morrison, head coach of the Manitoba Moose, is going to be joining us as well. We're talking a lot about Nikolai Ehlers, as Paul Edmonds reported yesterday in his Jets report. The unlikelihood, in his opinion, of Nikolai Ehlers staying with the organization. Of course, lots of stuff remains to be seen. But I want to talk to Mark Morrison. And I won't ask him outright because I don't think we'll get a straight answer from him, as he shouldn't give a straight answer. What would a Nikita Chibrikov or a Brad Lambert bring to a top 6 role? So I'm excited to be joined by Mark Morrison. But first,
with Mark Morrison, the reason he's a beauty, he might go, well, not much right now. Depends how their summer goes.
He would say that. James Myrtle, senior writer with The Athletic in Toronto, joining us now. Hey, James, thanks so much for joining the show.
Hey, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks, James. Good to have you back.
You heard us probably teasing Paul Maurice, who is very popular in these parts, former head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. Yesterday, I mean, he was talking about this when he was a member of the Jets, and I looked this up. From 2018 when the Jets went to the Western Conference Final. He did shake the Minnesota Wild's hand in the first round, but he did not participate in the handshake against Nashville.
It's kind of like a first round thing. The first round he's all right, but after that,
yeah. So this is not something new for him, but it's getting a lot more, I think maybe because with Craig Berube in Toronto, as you know, with that, and then leading into this, I think it's kind of gained a little bit more steam. What are your thoughts on it? Do you agree with Paul Maurice that the head coaches should not be involved in the handshake line, or do you think that everybody contributed to that Stanley Cup playoff appearance and everybody should have that opportunity to show good sportsmanship and shake everybody's hand in the organization?
I mean, I got to be honest, I never thought about it that much. Sometimes it's kind of nice having the coaches in there because there's players that they know and they have a relationship with. And I mean, I think with the handshake line, as a fan or a media person, you're just looking for, sometimes there's the relationships or something happened during the series and you can see there's a conversation that happens. And that's, that I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a really hot take on that one.
James doesn't care. That's fine. Hey, that's a good take.
I'll shake your hand any day I see you, James. We just haven't seen you in these parts for a while, but we will when we will shake your hand. The Jets, what do you make of them this offseason?
Well, I mean, honestly, Toronto's the team I follow the most closely, and I feel like both of them are in a somewhat similar position in that, really good regular season team, but the question is, how do you get over the hump and how do you beat the very best teams in the league? And it's almost like there's 3 tiers in the NHL right now. There's like the top 5 or 6 really high-end contenders, then there's a next group, and then there's everybody else. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the Leafs anyway are kind of in that next group where they can't get out of the first and second round. They run up against a good opponent and they can't get there. And no offense to the Jets, but it seems like they're kind of stuck there a bit too. So it's good to be in the playoffs every year. It's good to be, have good regular seasons and all that. But you just look at the level that Edmonton and Dallas and Florida are playing on right now, and a lot of other organizations are having a hard time keeping up with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was the same for the Jets and for the Leafs, right? I mean, they needed that one goal to kind of get them back in a game or to create separation. And, unfortunately they had bad showings in game 5 and 7 in Toronto. And that was essentially the difference in that series.
Yeah. And I mean, there's probably parallels too. You guys were talking about Ehlers coming in, and if you lose Ehlers, how do you replace what he brought to he always had a great season there. And, the free agent market is going to be really challenging for teams. I know the Jets have money that they can spend, but the problem is that the prices are going to be really, really high. And there's a number of teams that have $25-30 million to spend, and there's just not a lot of players to spend it on. So, my concern, if you're one of these teams like Toronto or Winnipeg, where you need to replace one key piece and maybe add two, is that the prices are just going to be so high and it's going to be prohibitive. And there's talk that Sam Bennett could get $10 million. And, it reminds me of before there was a salary cap that kind of, remember that year Bobby Holik got the $10 million deal? It kind of reminds me of those kind of contracts are being thrown around in terms of numbers. So it's going to be a challenge. And so I think that the challenge for Kevin Cheveldayoff is, what does he need to do to put the team over the top? And I think the good news in Winnipeg is you got more coming in the way of prospects than Toronto does. So maybe that's where some of the hope is that the youth movement helps them. But definitely a challenge right now, getting from being a really good team to being one of the very best teams.
How hot of a commodity do you think Nick Ehlers would be in free agency?
I think it's going to be, there aren't a lot of great offensive producers available. So, the Mitch Marner sweepstakes is obviously going to be the first domino that happens. And I've been looking at this closely for the story I'm working on, and I think probably half the league's going to be interested in Mitch Marner. And so you're going to have, 15, 16 teams in the bidding there, and you're going to have all of them but one that's going to fall short. And I think a lot of those teams are going to be lining up for Ehlers, if not as their second choice, then probably their third choice. So again, with him, I think that the number could get a lot higher than people expect. And it's just supply and demand, right? There's a lot of teams that really want to take the next step to get to where Winnipeg and Toronto are, that have been missing the playoffs year after year. I think I read there's something like 8 or 9 teams have missed the playoffs 5 years in a row. And I think you're going to see those teams that have a lot of cap space and some young players that are going to get really aggressive. So, I could see a Chicago or a Utah or San Jose making a really big offer. And if Ehlers is willing to go to a team that's still in the process of building back up its organization, I think he could get a lot of money. I think that he could easily be in that, 8-9 million tier.
I was just going to ask you what a number would be, because I think when Kevin Cheveldayoff said, we'll put our best foot forward, I don't think that was just a number for Ehlers. I think it was a number for Ehlers that would fit with everything else he wants to do. I was on Vancouver radio a week and a half ago. All they were asking me about was Ehlers. They said there's a big fever for him there. And we were talking this week about it. I agree with you. The San Jose's and of the world will throw the bank at him. But then I think teams like Vancouver to get him with Pettersson or somebody like that would be willing to do 9, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably where the number goes, just with the way his production was. And like I said, there's just not a lot of players that produced like that. I don't have it in front of me, but offensively, I think the top UFAs this year were Marner, Duchesne, Tavares, and then I think Ehlers is right there. So, and Tavares is going to take a huge discount to stay here in Toronto. But other than that, those guys are going to get really paid this year.
Can the Leafs be a better team without Marner on it?
I think it's going to be really tough.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just what they're going to have to do is take that, $13 million that they were going to give Marner and split that up over 2 or 3 players and hope that it gives them some more depth. Because, one of the stories in the series against Florida is they just didn't get any offense from their bottom 6 forwards. And, they've got their whole blue line signed. They've got 2 goaltenders signed. Their goalies had a great year. So it's really about rebuilding what's happening up front. And, the Leafs do have a lot of cap space. They've got over $20 million to spend. But again, it's going to be a really competitive landscape. And can they convince, a Sam Bennett or, Matt Duchene, or, they'd love to get another center in here and not have to put so much of the onus on 35-year-old John Tavares next season. But I think it's probably going to be a small step back from the 108-point team they were this year.
The big question, James, and you know this market, you've been here, would players with what they've done this year, the Jets, and how the window is the next 2, maybe 3 years, would players be more welcoming to come to Winnipeg? I don't think Marner would, or Tavares, but do you think what they've done now and sort of how the room is right attract more players?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've already been seeing that a little bit too, right? Where players are more excited to go there. And, everyone talks about the tax-free state stuff and the sunshine. And I'm working on a column on that today about how well the Sun Belt teams have done the last 5-10 years. But every player is different, and when I talk to player agents about where their players want to go, it's not just they want to go somewhere warm or they want to go where they get the most money. A lot of players how competitive a team is really, really important to them. And, I could see, Toronto has the same problem too. Like there's some American players, and they're becoming a bigger percentage of the pool of the league. Some American players don't want to come play in Canada. And so that's going to be something that Winnipeg's going to have to deal with. But on the flip side, I find that, a lot of the European players really do want to play in Canada, and they like it, and it feels more like home to them. So, I think Winnipeg's become more of a destination than, say, I don't know, maybe a team like Calgary or something that's struggling a bit more. But they're always going to have that challenge of recruiting, and it's not just Winnipeg. It's a lot of the Canadian teams. James
Myrtle, senior writer with The Athletic in Toronto. James, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, James. Always great having you on.
204-780-6868, 204-780-6868. Let's take a break. Let's come back. On the other side, I'll let you know when the Stanley Cup Final is going to start. It's going to be in June. That's all I can tell you before we really get dig into it. And then Mark Morrison, head coach of the Manitoba Moose, is going to be joining us after 12:30. Looking forward to that conversation. Like with the Jets,
why not July?
I think Winnipeg is still. I think it has improved its standing amongst many other players. Yeah, why not July? Why not August? Why not September? Lead right into the regular season.
One thing you're never going to fix, and it's the players. You heard me say this for 2 years now.
Yeah.
If the money's there, you're gonna, and you get to choose. Right? There are players that, like Marner, knows the money's going to be there. So it's more about where you want to live.
We'll be right back.
At noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Hey, call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new Triple Pep Pizza and Double Trouble Nachos, available now only at Boston Pizza. The number one caller will be awarded a gift certificate to Boston Pizza on Friday. Jim, if Edmonton wins tonight, the Stanley Cup Final goes June 5th. If Dallas wins, it goes the 7th. There you go. There's a little tidbit of information. But we learned something yesterday about Adam Lowry and his hip surgery, 5 to 6 month recovery here.
Heard he got it done in New York.
Yep.
And be 5 to 6 months, which means he'll miss probably the first 10 to potentially 25 games of the season.
Yeah. So this is was this surprising to you? Certainly was surprising to me.
It was surprising to me. Yeah. I didn't know, and I was told that if he didn't get it done, the season might not go for him next year. So.
Okay, so he might not even play next year? Or?
He had to get, this had to be done.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that you could rehab or anything like that. So wish him all the best. But yeah, 5 to 6 months, and we'll see where it goes, and, miss the first probably quarter of the season. Now, we know Adam Lowry, so yeah. I would lean towards if it's 10 to 25 games of the season, I would lean closer to the 10 than the 25, yeah. But heck of a way to spend your summer now, right?
Oh, yeah, that sucks. Mark Morrison with us after this. Welcome back to the show. Cam Poitras, Jim Toth. Jets at Noon brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line wins a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program as we're coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. Try the new Triple Pep Pizza only at Boston Pizza. While you're at it, download the Jets at Noon podcast free now on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Exclusive Jets talking content only found there. We discuss more in depth our opinions on coaches being involved in handshake lines. You want to hear that? It's a must listen to segment of the show. We just keep it on the podcast. So download that, take it in, and then take Jets at Noon wherever you go and continue the conversation whenever you want. Jim, our next guest, very excited to have him on the program.
I wonder if he takes Jets at noon with him on the boat and throws a line in the water and says, I'm going to listen to those 2 yard apes speak about whatever they talk about.
Is that true, Mark? Mark Morrison, head coach of the Manitoba Moose. Can you confirm or deny that?
I can totally confirm that.
I don't want to doubt you, Coach, but I might want to double check that myself. I think when you're on the water, you just enjoyed not listening to us.
No, I listen to you guys all winter long. I don't listen to you in the summer.
Oh, good for you.
That's the best way to go about it. So I'm interested to know your thoughts. It's been a while now since the Manitoba Moose ended their season. You've had a lot of time to digest. Anything that you can take away from the year that was?
Well, it obviously wasn't a great year for us with the 25 wins. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we know that we have to improve on, and we know how to improve on them. And sometimes a lot of the players who didn't, they're judged by their numbers a lot of the times. And when you have a season like we had, sometimes there's a lot of hidden skills that are improved on that nobody really sees. It's not all about goals or assists, but so I think a lot of players improved in different areas for sure.
Yeah. And you never want a season like that, Mark, but you can grow from it too, right? Like these are the things where the organization always preaches not only hockey skills, but individuals and character. And you got to go through some stuff to build character. Not that you want to do it this way, but that's part of the development.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Like, there was a lot of times where we had 2 or 3 losses in a row, and you got to come together as a team and find ways to get out of that. And for the most part, we stayed in it with the reason to fight right near the end. We were only 6 points out of the playoff spot, and still trying to battle. So at the end of the day, they learned how to become a team and play for each other at the end, and knew they were in some tough spots, but battled out of it. So, as I said, there's a lot of hidden things that that they improved on.
Now, I'm not going to ask you this specifically, unless you want to answer it, Mark. That's up to you here about somebody or one of the players like Nikita Chibrikov or Brad Lambert elevating into a top 6 role if the organization, no matter what, if something happens and Ehlers does go elsewhere. So I'll ask you this. What could Nikita Chibrikov and Brad Lambert each bring into a top 6 role if they would be given the opportunity for the Winnipeg Jets?
Well, they're different players, and that's going to be up to those guys, how they show up at camp and so on. To try to earn a spot, but they bring different things. Like Nikita's a bit of a, he can play a little heavier of a hockey game. He can be physical and win puck battles. He'll block shots. He'll play a bit of a heavier game for a small guy, but has the skill level to play on a power play. And Brad's a bit of a different hockey player who brings some explosiveness through his skating and through the neutral zone, but there's some, again, it's going to depend on how these guys show up at camp. Brad's going to, it's one of the things that I think he learned this year is that he's got to become he's just got to become physically stronger, and it'll help his game.
One of my, I don't want to say favorites, but one of the guys I always appreciate watching the past couple of years is Tyrell Bauer. Where's he in his development and what he brings to the team?
Yeah, he's Tyrell's a great teammate. Like he inside the locker room, he brings leadership. He sticks up for his teammates all over the place, on the ice, off the ice. He's great leadership skills. His on ice game, it needs to keep improving. It has improved, and his puck skills have to continue to improve. And he's at the rink right now out at the Iceplex. Working on it, and he's going to work on it all year. He's very persistent, and he's got a big upside there to him. Just has to continue to work on the puck skill part of the game.
Another defenseman last year for the Moose, Elias Salomonsson. He missed, of course, a good portion of the year due to injury. Still impressed when he was on the ice. I'm curious what your philosophy on defensemen. Are they ready to make the jump when they're ready? Or if there is no rush, is more seasoning in the AHL and more minutes in key spots in the best interests of the player?
Yeah, I think the latter works well there. Like he played 55 games for us this year. Improved vastly right from the beginning to the end. He never stopped improving. So, that learning curve and that improvement curve, he's in right now, and he's continuing to go. So for me, like he's, again, this is all dependent on the Jets management staff and Scott Arniel, but he's a guy that, he came in at the beginning of the year, hadn't played North American hockey before. Things happened quick on the smaller ice surface. He picked it up. Wasn't a power play guy. He had to run our first power play unit. He picked it up. Like everything we threw at him, he picked up quickly. So, I would say that he's a guy that I think he would want to push for to play hockey games with the Jets next year. I think that's what he would want to do, and I could see him doing that.
Mark, I'm at that age now when I can say back when I covered the American Hockey League. So back when I covered the American Hockey League. But like a lot of coaches, and one of them was Vigneault, and another one was Arniel himself, said that, there's a misconception that the biggest jump is the American Hockey League to the NHL. It's not. It's from junior or college to the pro game in the American Hockey League, and those adjustments are really key to how far a player can go to the National Hockey League should he get there. Is that still the case, do you find? Is the biggest jump is to pro hockey, not necessarily to the National Hockey League?
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. The strength, the man strength that comes out in the older players that you play against coming out of junior is tough. Like it's quickness, it's strength. And, some of those gaps are 10, 11, 12-year gaps, 13-year gaps for you're playing against men coming out of playing against 18, 17-year-olds. So it's the strength and the quickness and the speed of the game is far and above the jump from AHL to NHL. The junior to AHL is tough.
Parker Ford, what does he need to do to grow himself into a middle six role?
He just needs to keep on the same course he's on. This kid, you can't keep him down. He just keeps bouncing back, and he works so hard on and off the ice. He's improved his game tremendously. Like, scoring goals wise, like his shot has improved tremendously. I thought when he played for the Jets, he showed well. He's smart. I think he's on the right path. He just needs to keep working at it and wait for his opportunity.
Which goaltender is ready to push Connor Hellebuck? No, I'm just kidding. But you've got some really well drafted goaltenders, and we all know that that's probably the position, maybe next to defenseman, that sometimes takes the longest. What'd you make of the goalies that the team has drafted in the past couple of years, and how they've sort of gotten experience at the ECHL, the AHL, and all that their development is at?
Well, I think both of those guys, DeVicentis and Milic, have benefited from the ECHL time, and I think they've both shown really well. I don't know if they can do any more down there than they've done. They've played excellent, and they've both played really well for the Moose. Maybe more consistency is needed, but they've both shown really well.
And Jim, we'll see if you want to ask another question here, but I wanted just to get your thoughts on Chaz Lucius, of course, his career ending, EDS. Just awful stuff for the young man.
Yeah, for sure it is. I mean, he battled through a lot of things happened to him, like a lot of injuries happened, and he battled through it mentally and physically. And he kept coming back, and he was persistent with it. And at the end of the day, he just couldn't. And but I think he's it's very disappointing for him for sure. But also he knows what it is, and he's on the right path with his life now.
Just lastly, Mark, you mentioned Bauer's on the ice right now. Like it doesn't take long for these guys who who have the hunger and the drive to get to that next step. Their summer is already begun with the off-season workouts, it seems.
Yeah, and for sure. Like and sometimes when you have a season like the Moose had this year, you see some guys getting out a little bit earlier, like Bauer, like guys that are. That they know some of the weaknesses stand out a little bit more to them, and they want to get back at it. And that can be a good thing at times. So yeah, well, I was glad to see. I saw Bauer out there this morning, and I was happy.
Yeah, I guess I lied. I got one more for you. How often do you stay in touch with the players over the summer?
Not a whole lot. Maybe try to get a call through to each guy throughout the summer. Mm-hmm. But we see them around a few times. Some of the coaches, we usually split it up with the coaches to each keep track of 5 or 6 guys per coach. And but we have development camp coming up to see some of the younger guys, of course. So yeah.
Well, we won't bother you with more calls yourself, Mark. Enjoy your summer. Catch some big ones, and thanks for doing this as always.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good day.
Yeah. Great stuff there from Mark Morrison, head coach of the Manitoba Moose. Always appreciate him popping on the program. It's interesting, right? Parker Ford, I'm interested to see what he can do when he becomes a member of the Winnipeg Jets, if and when that happens. Elias Salomonsson pushing for a spot. But when it comes to that top 6 role with Chibrikov and Brad Lambert, I mean, if the Jets can't fill that spot in free agency, and if Nick Ehlers does go and play for another organization, it is essentially what Mark said. It's up to one of those guys to take that spot. And it's like, guys, go win it. And it's good that there's 2 of them. There's 2 guys that people could see joining that top 6.
Well, and that's kind of what, like yesterday I was saying, the biggest misnomer I hear from some fans is that, so-and-so gets signed and their position's blocked. Like Neil Pionk gets an extension and now Salomonsson or whoever, Heinola doesn't have a clear path. There's never a clear path. The whole idea of the National Hockey League is to take somebody's job. I remember talking to Andrew Ladd after a draft once in June, and he was around for a charity event or something. He did an interview with me for this station, and then I said, did you watch the draft? Do you pay attention to that? And he's like, we obviously check in with it. I don't watch it live anymore, but blah, blah, blah. And then when the interview was over, he's like, honestly, like, until somebody's on our team, they're trying to take our job. Like, we don't sit here and go, we got the first overall pick and are excited about it. It means we had a terrible year. And that,
unless that first overall pick is like Connor McDavid or something, and somebody's going to come right into your lineup.
But I mean, the idea was no disrespect to them or anything like that, but we all want to keep our jobs, and we're all spending the summer working on it. And when somebody comes in and makes the team, like earns it, of course we help them and we want them because we're all in this. But we don't go, this guy's coming. It's like it's a competitive, it's pro sports, right? So it's up to the players to be better than the ones that, if you want to play higher than 5-6, then be better than the 3-4.
Yeah, and also if the Winnipeg Jets go out and again, I think this is unlikely just based on the free agency history of this organization. If they do go out and get another winger, it's because they see that as a better option than what they have internally. I mean, they're not dancing around it when you have a team that's gearing up for another cup run next year.
This is also win now, right?
Totally.
So Brad Lambert, I believe, and Chibrikov have a role on this team. Yeah. And when I say on this team, in the organization, they're going to play games for them this year. Injuries,
just
whatever.
Like they did last year. Yeah.
How many is up to them and how they work and develop over the summer. And even if they sign somebody in that top 6, that would drive me to work even harder. Like, this is win now, right?
Yeah.
This is win now window. So they're not going to go, okay, Brad, hope you have a good 50 games and we'll see where you're at. Mm-hmm. They are spending the summer trying to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, they're not the Sharks and Macklin Celebrini's playing 20 minutes a night.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Just to get him in more situations. This texter says, good day. Is there any truth to Ehlers heading to Montreal? I love that you sent this text message.
I've never heard this rumor other than people think that he wants to play with Laine. Like, I've never heard a legitimate, and I'm not saying there isn't one.
Yeah.
And if there's some reporters out there saying, like, I've heard this, then I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and I also haven't heard anything. And I love this because every single free agent that has ever been available or any piece that's ever been available for trade is linked to the Montreal Canadiens because that's how their fan base is. This is just, and I'm not saying Ehlers. Ehlers very well might go and sign in Montreal to play with his buddy Patrick Laine, who has one more year left on his contract, and Ehlers is going to obviously look to have a long-term contract with no guarantees that Laine is going to stay there past next year. So I don't think that would be a very prudent move if he wants to go and play with his friend Laine to go there unless Laine has some sort of contract or is going to stay there. So having said all that, every single player is linked to the Habs. It remains to be seen. I can't confirm, I can't deny it, but I haven't seen it, and I don't necessarily believe it.
You said we will know what Nick Ehlers wants with whom, including the Jets, whom and when he signs and for what.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. James Myrtle said he's, the $9 million. I wonder how many Jets fans would be all right with Nick Ehlers at $9 million. I don't think a lot.
I think it'd be very small minority.
I think Kyle Connor gets 9.5. That's what I think. And I think Ehlers is offered 7 to 8. And I think that he knows he can get more. But whatever happens with Ehlers, you'll find out whether he takes 10 to be in San Jose or whether he takes 8.5 to be with Carolina and or Montreal or Toronto. He might take 9 in Montreal and see that they're building and made the playoffs this year. But a lot of that, he's got a lot of things to weigh.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll be right back.
OB.
Welcome back. We'll give away our VIP text. Goes to Chris. He's going to get that VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method, 690 St. Anne's Road. Chris says, it would be sad to lose Ehlers. He's very skilled and an exciting player to watch. I really believe that the Jets need a big, strong, top 6 forward who can dominate the front of the net. These unfortunately are few and far between and would demand a high price, particularly what James Myrtle was talking about. And I'm kind of with him now. I've been thinking more about this with supply and demand. It's like... Mitch Marner could be very close to the highest paid player in the entire National Hockey League after this.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I looked as well. It's not a deep free agent class. If no disrespect to Sam Bennett, but Sam Bennett at the most in my mind is 7-8 million. And that is being generous, Cam. I think he's a $5 to $6 million guy. So in free agency, I always go up $1 or $2 million. The idea that somebody might give him 10 speaks to how weak of a class this is.
Yeah, I do not.
But have you looked at 2026?
$10 million.
Now, none of this will happen, but have you looked at 2026? It's like Connor McDavid, Kyle Connor. It's compared to this year.
Sam Bennett is right now making 4.425, and that's about 6.5. Missed your chance to get your thoughts on the show today? Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new Triple Pet Pizza and Double Trouble Nachos, available now only at Boston Pizza. Jim Toth to take you all the way until 2 o'clock. Tomorrow's Free For All Friday. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Fortier, for producing the show. That's it for me. Back same time tomorrow. See ya.